What's going on YouTube? Today is another day. It's Thursday, August 14th. It's currently noon right now. I'm at the library like I always am pretty much from Monday to Friday. I try to be here till like 7 p.m. I think that's a pretty good study day. I posted a video on the 9 to 5 and I kind of resonated with a lot of people. So I'm here to talk more about that. So essentially, your 9 to 5 is supposed to be there, right? So that you can gather up the money so that you can pretty much elevate yourself elsewhere, right? Because essentially companies are pretty much gonna take advantage of you, right? Because that's how the system works, right? And the reason why it works like that is because profit or being greedy is legal, right? So if they want to be as greedy as a motherfucker, then they can do that shit because it's legal, right? The government allows them to do that, right? They can't do that because the government sets the rules so that it's like that, right? And my time during working, I've worked in several warehouses. I worked in Amazon. I worked in warehouses that really weren't big. They were just small. I worked in painting with like SpaceX and shit. But I noticed one pattern going on in every one of the buildings, right? In every one of the sectors, and every one of the companies and corporations, whatever that I work for, right? And it's that none of them actually give a shit about their employees, right? And it's funny because instead of paying better, right? Instead of giving a better raise, instead of giving better bonuses, right? They push people to do their absolute best, right? And at the end of the day, all you get is a pizza party, right? Or maybe you get food, or maybe you get, I don't know, it's usually some kind of small treat, right? But the funny part is that that's not the majority of the times. It's not the company doing it. The majority of the times the company isn't paying for the pizza parties or the food parties or whatever, right? The majority of the time, or from what I've seen, right, it's actually the managers who pay for this shit. And like the reason why they do it is because, yeah, you know, obviously you have good production, and the company sees that managers are doing good, and then they get paid a little more. Maybe they'll get a better pay raise and that sort of stuff, right? So in order to keep employees motivated to keep working and to keep working faster and to be able to do more stuff, right? The managers, sometimes they'll be kind enough to give food out and buy and go about their own, right? To bring in pizza and whatever, right? And like I'm very grateful for every manager that's ever done that. But like this goes to show that it's not even the company. The company doesn't give a shit about you. Like, this is all an illusion, right? So when you get a pizza party or whatever, don't ever think for a second that it was the company who paid for it. And if they did, I guess they did, right? I guess I could be wrong, I guess, right? But from what I've seen, it's been pretty consistent that like managers are the reason why, you know, these pizza parties show up, right? So like back to the point, right? Companies, they have to exploit you because that's the only way they could make a lot of money, right? The issue with even working hard, right, especially at a workplace, right, is that if you work hard and you bust your ass and you do all this, right, and you go above and beyond, right, for a company, right, the company is not forced to give you anything in return for all that hard work, right? All you're ever gonna get is managers expecting you to keep that work up forever and ever, right? Regardless of whether you're tired, regardless of whether you're sick or something's going on in your life, it doesn't matter, right? Once a hard worker, always a hard worker in the eyes of a manager, right? So the second you start kind of chilling down a little bit, or you decide to take it easy or back down a bit, managers are gonna get in your ass, right? Because they're gonna realize, well, Raul's not working at his full potential anymore. Like, what's going on? You know, they're gonna start asking all these questions, and they're gonna start making all these assumptions and whatever, right? But you have to keep cool, right? You have to keep down, right? So whenever you're working at any place, right, especially if you're in it for the long run, the best option is to stay low key, right? You don't want to expose yourself too much, right? You don't want to overdo things a little too much, right? Because essentially, it doesn't matter how hard you work, you're never gonna get that promotion. You're probably never gonna get that raise, right, that you want, or that position that you want, right? And it can all go to shit really fast. So it's always best to not bust your ass, to be consistent with slow work, slow pacing, right? Be consistent with that, and you're gonna be set, right? Because if managers see that you work slow, then essentially you're expected to work slow, right? And so this is something that not many people understand, right? Is that like in order for you to be able to stick around for a long time, right, with no issues and no, you know, managers being all on your ear, right, on your face, like on there being like, what's going on, why are you working fast enough and whatever, right? In order to avoid all that hassle, first off, you have to set boundaries, right? You have to let them know that, hey, look, listen, I'm working hard, and I'm doing this to the best of my ability, right? I understand that, like, that you want me to work faster, right? Because you're being pressured by upper management to push out more parts, but you have to understand that, like, this process takes time, right? And just say that, right? And take your time with it, because at the end of the day, depending on the company what you're working for, right, they would rather want you to do better quality than working faster or harder or whatever, right? Even though they really want both of them, which is impossible, right? But you really just want to stay consistent. Like, you don't want to be that guy that, like, works too hard or does too much, because at the end of the day, like I said, managers are going to expect you to keep up that work. And if you're ever tired and if you're ever not performing as well as you used to, they're going to get pissed. They're not going to like it, and you're not going to see any good results from that, right? In comparison to someone who doesn't work that hard, someone who doesn't push out that many parts, right? Works just a little bit faster, right? Just a little bit faster, you know, a couple times during the week or whatever. That person would get rewarded far better than someone who works hard consistently every single day, right? Because they're looking at performance, right, too, right? And if performance is like going up, if performance started all the way up here, right, they're gonna expect you to pretty much like go above that, right? And improve every single month, every single year, right? But if you start all the way down here, right, and every single year you're kind of little bit by little bit, right, and you're consistently going up, right, then that would get you rewarded far better than the person who worked hard from the beginning, right? Because it's all based on performance too, right? So it's like how fast are you progressing, right? And typically the slower you progress, the better, right? Because you don't want to progress too fast, because if you progress too fast, you're gonna have to stay too fast, right? And you're gonna get worn out, you're gonna get tired, you're not gonna want to show up to work, you're not gonna feel motivated to go to work, right? Because you've been working hard for a whole year and you still haven't gotten a promotion, right? Or a good bonus, or maybe even a good raise, right? And most of these companies are not gonna give you, at least from my experience, right? Most of these companies, at best, they'll give you $1 in per year. As your kind of like your pay raise, right? Which is absolutely bullshit. Like, it's $1 is a piece of shit, right? And they can't even go as low as 10 cents, which I've definitely seen that happen before. It's happened to me actually, where like my raise was 10 cents higher or 20 cents higher, or whatever bullshit, right? And you did everything right, you performed well, you did everything correctly, right? But like, if the company isn't earning money, like I said, or if the company's not performing well, right, and they're not getting profit, right, the bonuses are gonna be shit, the pay raise is gonna be shit, everything's gonna be shit, and they're gonna expect you to work even harder than what you normally did, right? Which is absolutely bullshit, right? Like, you would expect companies to at least give you a better bonus, a better pay raise, right, before they ask you to work even harder, right? Which would make a lot of sense, right? It's based on greed, and it's based on competition, and it's based on like destroying people in order to get money or profit from people, right? Just make sure that, like, every single day that you go to work, right, you also have some like side hustle or some side thing, right, to get you out of the companies, outside of the companies. If I were you, if you're willing to get exploited by someone, get exploited by the government. Don't get exploited by a company, please. It's far better to get exploited by a government than it is to get exploited by a company. Far superior. They're very consistent. Like, if you work for a government, raises are very consistent. Typically has way better benefits. You can sometimes they give you a place to stay so that you don't even have to pay for an apartment or nothing like that. If you get a government job, it's just far superior, because like, you know that at the end of the day you're working for the government, right? And the government is supposed to be working for the people, right? If you work for a company, then essentially you're pretty much getting exploited for the sake of profit, right? The government is opposite, right? The government is more like, you're getting exploited, but at the same time it's good because it's for the people, essentially for the people. But that's essentially like what I would recommend you to do. Instead of applying in Indeed and all of these bullshit jobs from companies that are broke as fuck, that are not willing to give you the raise that you deserve and the bonus that you deserve, right? Get exploited by the government. Go get a government job. Don't get a company job. These companies don't need you. If these companies, they have so much people applying for their position, for their shit position, right? That only pays fucking minimum wage, probably less than that, right? And someone like you that might have experience, or someone like you that might have a bachelor's or a master's or any of that bullshit, right? Cannot apply for these jobs because they have so much fucking people that are looking for this shitty job, right? Because like there's a lot of people that obviously are struggling to find jobs, right? And they're having to kind of like go down the wage ladder, right? They're having to get paid less, right? They're having to look for shittier jobs, right? That no one wants, right? And that's all just part of like inflation and like just government overspending and printing money and whatever. But anyways, I guess I just want to leave it at this. So essentially, like, the whole conclusion to this is don't work too hard, because companies don't give a shit about what the work you're doing. Most companies are so fucking greedy that they won't give you a good raise. At best, they'll give you $1. At worst, they'll give you nothing to about 10 cents minimum. And always try to do or find something, even if it's recording yourself or making YouTube videos or even doing TikToks or whatever, right? Or doing a side hustle like DoorDash or, you know, stuff like that. Try to stay away from the 9 to 5 as far as you can from it, or like at least try to have something on the side, right? Because you know, jobs aren't consistent. You can get fired anytime. You're not safe. You can get a shitty raise, right? You can get warned out. There's a lot of things that could happen. So it's always far better to do what you want to do out of life, right, than it is to work for a company and do what everyone tells you to do, right, and expect it to go all well, right? So another thing, always make sure that if you're gonna work for someone, at best try your best to work for a government, right? Because companies are gonna exploit you, and it's better to get exploited by a government than it is by the companies. So thank you so much for watching this video. Hope you enjoyed it. Please hit that like button. It motivates me to make more videos like this. And subscribe and comment down. You know, I like to communicate too. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next one.